All right, brother. All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. I am your host, Mark Ross, and tonight with me I have Brother Savio Clemente. Mr. Savio is a cancer survivor, wellness coach, author, journalist, and a TEDx talker. Welcome to the show, my brother.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you for
Welcome to
that
the show.
warm welcome. And after you mentioned all those titles, it's a lot. I have to say, I'm even like,
It is
whoa,
a lot.
okay.
It's a lot, my brother. So I know we have a little bit of a time restraint, so I'll just get right down to it, my friend, if that's all right with you.
Uh, yes.
Uh okay, my friend. Okay. You're a stage 3 cancer survivor, Savio. Talk about how life was for you before the diagnosis.
People often ask me that question. They're like, you must have been living a terrible life and cancer came and it just, no, actually, in terms of physicality wise, I was doing well. I was eating organic food. I was eating hormone free food.
Mm.
I was exercising 6 days a week. I was spinning, boxing. I was a longtime meditator, so I meditated. I constantly was hydrated. I did all the quote unquote right physical things. And life was pretty interesting. My background's IT, so I was in IT, and then I also was working on a passion project with a couple of other individuals, doing a production company as well. So life was moving along swimmingly, but I will say emotionally and mentally, there was some stuff with the business that I was working on with the passion project that didn't go well. So
Okay.
I don't like to say that that was the impetus for cancer, but it something was definitely not going right in my life at that point when cancer showed up.
Mm. Okay. Okay. So what went through your mind when you found out about this diagnosis, and explain the process of how you dealt with it.
So cancer showed up in my life in July of 2014. I was on a trip with with a good friend of mine, and we went to Paris, London, and Amsterdam. And I kept noticing deep drenching night sweats. And I thought it was just a fluke. So I came home to the States. I had them. And then my stomach started getting bigger and bigger, like distended. And I was like, this is something strange.
Yeah.
So I went to go see a naturopath who usually I saw for the last few years. He used to analyze my blood and used to give me like a workup on what vitamins to take, what meal structures to have. And he said, something's wrong here. So he advised me to go get a
Mhm.
sonogram. And when I
Yeah.
got a sonogram, they wouldn't let me leave the office. And then they told me to go to the hospital, have a relative come pick me up. I went to the hospital, and literally within an hour and a half, I was transferred to the fifth floor. And later that night, I heard nurses speaking that they were going to transfer me to the seventh floor, which they call the cancer floor. So that night, I had an idea that I had cancer. I didn't know what kind, I didn't know what it was, but that was the big
Mm.
foray into finding out about the situation.
So, so this is an off the beat question because you talk about how this came about, but I mean, what went through your mind when everything just came to fruition? It's like I'm dealing with this.
Yeah.
I'm dealing with this. You know what I'm
So
saying?
So when most people find out about cancer, they have time to let it sink in. They have time to make a decision. They have time to think about a second opinion. I had none of that time. I was told to go to the hospital within an hour on the fifth floor. I had a respiratory mask attached to me that night. I heard nurses talking about transferring me to the seventh floor. I woke up the next morning. I had all these doctors in front of me. They had to then send me off to get a nephrostomy too because my stomach was getting bigger. So they had to distend liquid from
Well,
my abdomen. And that's when the doctor whispered
right.
in my ear, he goes, I'm sorry to say, but it's DLBCL, diffuse large B cell lymphoma, stage 3. But he said to me, he goes, if there's a cancer to get, this is the one to get, which I thought was odd. But he said that. And he said
You're
to me,
right.
the reason why is because he's like, we have therapeutics and uh, immunologies that can help you beat this thing. That's what he said to me. But I was in the hospital for a total of 15 days. The first week, I was bedridden because of the nephrostomy tube for the distension that I had in my stomach. The last 6 days, I was told by the medical director that I would eventually have to get my first round of chemo, and that in itself is a whole new sort of thinking process. But if you're asking me what was going on, everything was so fast and furious that I had to take time for
Yeah.
myself. And because I was a meditator, I knew I had to go within myself. And this really
Mm,
springboards to my TEDx talk, which we talk about later. But this idea of loving your inner stranger, the stranger was the Savio that was physically dying in the bed, but the other parts of me were still alive. And so what was going through my head was three things. One, I'm not a, whether you're in any belief system or religion, you do know that this physical coil that we call, there's something much bigger than this. So I wasn't really afraid to die. I was afraid to disappoint myself and other people, that I didn't finish what I came here to do, that I somehow messed this up. And that was running through my mind. The second thing that was running through my mind was, okay, this is in front of me, and these people are trying to help me and heal me. So I need to meet them where they are. So I gave the same amount of energy they gave me. When they would come in, I would do the best to be as upbeat and alive as possible, because people only help people that want to help themselves. So that was number two. The
indeed.
third thing running through my
Indeed.
mind was my faith. So I grew up Catholic, but I explored many belief systems, all from Buddhism to spirituality. So I knew that for myself, in order to lift me up of this particular situation, I needed to dig deep in. And those are the three things that was running through my mind.
Hey, wow. Well, this leads to my next question then. Explain the transformation process of quote unquote uncovering the hidden strengths and resilience. That was on your bio, by the way. So that's why I copied
Yeah.
that.
No, thank you for actually even seeing that. Yes. So that really alludes to my work. So I'm a board certified wellness coach. I help people with any type of adversity, medical adversity, find that new normal, find a way to become true leaders for themselves and other people, find ways to
Mhm.
amplify their impact and tell their story. And so for me, the unlocking is a process. It's basically a framework that I use and I talk about in my TEDx talk, which is called 7 Minutes to Wellness: How to Love Your Inner Stranger. And basically, I derived it from this healing modality called Huna healing from Hawaii. And of Huna healing, there's this offshoot called Ho'oponopono, and that's really about self-forgiveness and self-compassion. So unlocking the hidden strengths is a framework called the Aloha Reboot. And so it's an acronym. So A stands for acknowledge where you are. L is about listening, listen to that inner voice. O is about opening yourself to self-compassion and self-forgiveness, which is huge in the people that I've coached and the people that I've interviewed. H is for harness that wisdom from within. And A is about acting with intentional purpose on your day-to-day. So unlocking the strengths is really about going inside, because we all think that other people will help us. And don't get me wrong, my doctors were saviors to me. They did what they do best, right? They do the medical, they do the testing, they do the therapeutics, they do the chemo, they do that. I let them have that. But the rest of it, the emotion, my mental, my spirituality, my relationships with other people, even my dreams, I had to take the reins off of that. So that's about unlocking your inner
Yeah.
strength.
Now, with the aloha reboot, with, I guess, a segue to my question about how do you help people as a wellness coach? How long have you been working as a wellness coach, Savio?
So I decided that after 5 years in remission, that I would do something with what happened to me. I wanted to wait 5 years because oncologists will always tell you that after 5 years, it's less likely to occur. It can still happen, but it's less likely. And I just wanted
Okay.
to make sure that I passed a barometer. So I decided that's what I was going to do
Mhm.
and that's what I was going to explore. And so for me,
Yeah.
I just knowing who I am as a personality, I'm like, if I'm going to be a wellness coach, I'm going to be really good at this. So I ended up doing a board
Indeed.
certification. And that board certification is given by the MBNE, which is the National Board of Medical Examiners. It literally what gives doctors their MD status. And so I took an exam, I studied for a long time. And then I also, on top of it, did other trainings called the ICF, which is called the gold standard in coaching. The whole point of all this is not because I wanted to just consistently educate myself, which is great, but I wanted to make sure that if I'm meeting someone in their situation, I know
Yes.
exactly how to help
Yes.
them. I now, by
Yes.
expertise and by my training and by my knowledge base, and also about living the experience. I want to be an example of what I tell other people to do. And so that felt really right for me. And from that, I springboard into my writing, which then caught the attention of an editor. And then now I'm a journalist and I've written pieces on the wellness experience. What's wellness? What's illness? I've interviewed people like Venus Williams, Ice-T, Deborah Messing, Carson Kressley on this
Wow.
notion of what wellness is. I've traveled to Italy. I was in India in December for National Geographic, so I do work for them as well. And it's really about
Oh my
explaining and
goodness.
exploring what is living, what is thriving, what is surviving.
That's amazing, Savio. So you talk about that reboot. You did a reboot.
Yes, I
You
did a
had a reboot
reboot,
of your whole brother.
and I'm dating myself here, but if you remember back in the 90s, if something was wrong with your computer, what did you do? You just hit reboot. That's just what you did.
That's the reboot.
You're like, my mouse ain't working, hit reboot. My monitor ain't working, hit
Reboot.
reboot. That's just what you did.
That's it. That's it. And sometimes, not to go off the beat for a little bit, but sometimes it is that simple.
Yeah.
Just press the reboot. I mean, whatever didn't work in your life, take that shit out.
Yep. Absolutely.
Reboot.
Yeah.
Put in something that does work.
Yeah.
Reinvent yourself.
And what I've learned in the many years that I've lived on this earth and gone through what I've gone through, especially cancer, is sometimes life is a
Yes.
series of catching and releasing. Sometimes life is a series about owning and disowning. Sometimes life is about
Mm.
grabbing and letting go. And it's a nuanced
Indeed.
thing. It's not as simple as black and white. Each person has to decide what that means for them. But that's what I've learned, because the greatest truth, one of the greatest truths I've ever learned is you cannot pour in when a pot is already full. The pot has to be emptied for new stuff to be poured in. And so cancer was a huge reboot for me. And the TEDx talk was not only talking about my experience with cancer. At this point, Mark, I've interviewed 200 cancer survivors. I've interviewed 2,000 thought leaders and experts in the realm of wellness and longevity and the fear of failure and resilience and cancer doctors. And what I found was this kernel of truth in general is that we can control what we control, and we have to learn that there's some things that we can't control. So the key is, can I control a test? I can't control a test. Can I control what's happening inside my blood vessels? I cannot control that. But what I can control is I have the tools, the resources, the knowledge, the access, the availability to tools and resources that are available to us. That's what I can control.
Indeed. Indeed. Brother, you preaching. You preaching, brother. What was that say that? Let them cook. Let them cook.
Let's go.
Your bio says that you're a best-selling author. Talk about your book, sir, and the purpose of writing that book.
Sure. So my first interview series, I pitched an idea to my editor and I said, can we do something about cancer survivors? And he's like, okay. So he thought of a fantastic title for the piece. It's called I Survived Cancer. Here's how I did it. So at this point, I've interviewed 200 cancer survivors. And so he came to me and he's like, Savio, you don't understand, from my end, this is huge. This needs to be a book, my friend. So we coined the same name of the book, I Survived Cancer. Here is how I did it. But this time I took 35 of their stories. I told my own story. And literally, Mark, I woke up the next day and my book promotions team said, Savio, you hit the bestsellers list in 4 categories, which to me, it's great to have that accolade, but it's about the hope. It's about seeing something greater than your disease. It's about seeing that these people, these 35 people that I chose from all walks of life,
Yeah.
different types of cancers, they are a testament
Yeah.
to the strength, to the vitality, and to the purpose that they want to still be in this world and contribute to something greater than themselves.
I'm speechless on that one, brother. uh, Talk. You mentioned the TEDx talk. How was that experience of doing that?
Oh, so I did it in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I knew for myself, because I just don't do anything half-ass. I got to make sure I know what I'm doing. And this world of speaking,
Yes.
and people didn't believe me. They're like, Savio, what are you talking about, my friend? You've been on panels, you do podcasts, you
Mhm.
have your own podcast, you do. I'm like, no, guys, standing up in front of people you don't know on a stage and waiting for them with bated breath on what you're going to say next, it's terrifying. They're actually, as a matter of fact, the impetus of doing it came up in 2023. I woke up in January and I said, what's the one thing that scares me? And I read a survey that says more people fear public speaking than death. And I'm like, Mark, I
Then
face
that.
death. I face the death part. So I got to do the speaking part. So I was part of an incubator. They've put, at this point, they put over 400 people on the TEDx stage, and they had a community, and they taught you how to answer the application questions, how to write a TEDx talk, because there's a flow and a methodology to writing a really good talk. But they told us,
Yeah.
they said, listen, guys, the average industry average is 75 applications to one yes. So I'm sorry, 85 applications to one yes. So I knew,
Oh,
like, okay, this is going to take some time. But you know what?
right.
The organizer in Raleigh, North Carolina, her and I had synergy. It was my eighth application. And she's like, I understand your idea word spreading. I understand your message. I love your credibility. Come on down. So she only chose 10
Right.
out of over 300 applications. So it's a 2 to 3% acceptance rate. And then later, I found out a month later, a month and a half later, that I would be the first one to go. So not only did I do this, I also had to set the bar, the tone as to what's happening. And
Right.
I'll give you and your audience a little clue on it. Um, when I got up there, what you don't see on the TEDx talk, which by the way, it's doing really well. It's close to 60,000 views, which is amazing. Um, is the fact that
Amazing.
they had audio issues. So when I went up there the first minute, I had to go back off stage because people don't understand. It's filmed live, but it's not live streamed. So I had to go, and then came out, did 2 minutes, and then the organizer came down. She goes, no, let's start it again. And I did it the third time, no audio issues. I did it. And someone came up to me afterwards and they said, my friend, they're like, I don't know you, but what you did was what I saw was a baseball game. I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, you were up there, strike one, not your fault. Strike two, not your fault.
Right.
Strike three, home
Right.
run. He's like, dude, you killed it. And I'm like, I looked at him and I'm like, I'm a New Yorker. I'm like, I've been through 9/11. I've been through cancer.
Yes.
I've been through other sagas. I was like, if they wanted me to do it 20 more times, I would have done it. But then he's like, you showed resilience. Before you even talked about resilience and your story, you showed
Mhm.
us what resilience
Yes.
is. And I'm like, wow, thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
That's amazing, man. That is truly amazing. And it is a testament to your faith and your courage to stand up to cancer because although people do survive it, many other people don't, unfortunately. And we are losing people on a daily basis to that thing. So, blessings to you for being here and being a testament to your journey, sir.
Thank you. Yeah.
Uh, how can people contact you?
Yeah, so they can go to my website. So it's Savio, Savio. P is my middle initial, Clemente, Clemente. On there, they can see my TEDx talk. At this point, I'm only taking probably one or two more people from my 90-day. I have a 90-day coaching program. So it takes aspiring leaders and allows them to amplify their impact, tell their story, and also create goodness and opportunities in their life, both personally and professionally. They can also look at other podcast episodes, and they can get my weekly newsletter. I talk about something called the three brains: head, heart, and gut, which there's anecdotal evidence that says that those areas of the body have a knowingness, a consciousness of its own, and we just have to tap into that aspect. And I actually, a few weeks ago, I actually covered the red carpet at the Oscars. And so I wrote a piece in my newsletter about, do
Really?
I belong in a sea of Hollywood's elites? Do I actually belong there? So I'm very honest with the newsletter so they can follow along and that, they can learn and gain wisdom with their own lives in that. And then on social media,
Wow, Savio.
they can find me at the Human Resolve on social media.
That's amazing, Savio. Uh, I, I I know that we're pressed for a little time, so I'll wrap this up. But I just want to say, sir, I have I'm impressed by your testimony. I wish we could talk longer,
Well,
but I know that you have
actually,
other.
Mark, I think because of the time zones, I think we do have longer. So I can go up to 8:30 my time, which is 7:30 your time. So it's really up to you how you want to handle this.
Oh, we're fine. We're fine. I mean, we did what we had to do. We conquered the mountain. You
We
know, we're
did.
at the finish line, my brother. We're at
Okay.
the finish line, man.
Okay.
But we're at the finish line.
Okay.
So, but Savio, I just want to thank you for taking a little bit of time to speak with me and to share your story, sir. I really do appreciate it, and I'm thankful and I'm blessed to have you talking with me. I mean, you could have been talking with other people doing other things, but you took a few minutes to chop it up with me, and I'm grateful for that.
Well, I appreciate the
I
opportunity.
really am.
If I could leave your audience with one thing, it would probably be this
Yeah.
idea of to know thyself is to heal thyself. It's something that I say at the end of my talk, and it's an ancient saying that really speaks volumes to me because it's always an inside job. It's never an external job. It's always about finding out what's happening within us and finding people who can help us explore those things within us. So,
Sure. Well, thanks so much, sir, for taking the time again to come up and chop it up with me. And I look forward to talking with you soon if it's possible.
absolutely. 100%.
Is it possible?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, say less. I'm gonna look forward to that. So with
Okay.
that being said, Savio, to all those that are listening, I'm Mark Ross, and this has been another episode of the Speak Your Truth with Mark Ross podcast. And remember this, everyone, self-care is important. So make sure that your mental and physical health be a priority every day first. Take care of yourself first. With that being said, I am out. Until next time, peace, everybody. Take care.